Welcome to the Business Bitcoinization Show, the show dedicated to helping you enrich your life and grow your business with Bitcoin, the hardest money on planet Earth. I'm your host, Josh Friedeman, and our guest today is Mike Jarmuz, also known as Muzz. He's a general partner at ltng.ventures and is focused on investing in Bitcoin companies. He also co-organizes the Unconfiscatable Conference and is an advisor to Azteco. He has a serious angel investing addiction and has invested in over 1,500 companies. If you're interested in investing, if you're interested in ways to get into angel investing in particular, or just learning a little bit about Bitcoin companies, I think you're going to enjoy our conversation today. But of course, before we get to our interview with Muzz, we have this week's Bitcoin Meetup Spotlight. And this week, it's Knoxville Bitcoin. Knoxville Bitcoin was born in a coincidental sort of way. A couple of people in the Knoxville area were separately trying to start a Knoxville Bitcoin meetup. They thought they were the only one until they ran into each other on Twitter. Knoxville Bitcoin Network was quickly born after, with their first meetup in April of 2022. Knoxville Bitcoin aims to be a place where those who are interested in Bitcoin can share their ideas with others. They want to educate each other and their community and advocate for small local business Bitcoin adoption. On top of their meetups, they aim to provide a network for each other. And finally, they provide slide decks for each meetup with a different topic each time. Afterward, they'll post them on their site for anyone to download and use. You can find them on Twitter at KnoxvilleBTC or on KnoxvilleBitcoin.com. And if you happen to not be in the Knoxville area, I encourage you to download the Oshi app. Oshi will help you to see different Bitcoin meetups in your area. And if there are any businesses in your area that accept Bitcoin, you'll also probably be able to get cash back using the Oshi app. Now, we're going to get to our interview with Muzz right after this. There are dozens of places where you can buy Bitcoin. So where do you go? Well, since the beginning, I've gone to Swan. Swan Bitcoin offers ways for you to make instant buys or to dollar cost average into Bitcoin. And if you're looking to purchase $100,000 or more over time, Swan Private gives you a one-on-one rep who can help you navigate any questions you might have. Maybe you're a business owner looking to give your employees a consistent Bitcoin bonus. If so, Swan's Bitcoin Benefit Plan is your answer. In fact, I can't think of a lot of good reasons not to at least check out Swan. So to get started, go to swan.com/bizbit. And if you're on the fence about Bitcoin, just trying to learn more, you can download your free copy of Inventing Bitcoin from Swan. People who don't know about Swan are buying this excellent overview of Bitcoin on Amazon right now. But you know about Swan. So go to swan.com/bizbit. Then there's River Financial. River lets you dollar cost average as well and charges zero fees when you do. But there's something else that makes River stand out to me even more: cash flow. If you like your money making money, River's hosted Bitcoin mining service might be just what you're looking for. Through River, you can buy new Bitcoin mining hardware that they'll then run for you. Or you can select a miner that's already up and running and start receiving Bitcoin in as little as 5 days. This is a great option to grow your personal Bitcoin stack, but it can also be part of your IRA or business account. Go to bizbitshow.com/river to get $100 in Bitcoin for every miner you purchase through River. That's bizbitshow.com/river. And last but certainly not least, we have Oshi. If you're looking for a risk-free way to take Bitcoin for a test drive in your business, Oshi is for you. Oshi lets you give your customers cash back in Bitcoin using the Bitcoin Lightning Network. Merchants love the Lightning Network because it provides instant payment settlement and makes chargebacks a thing of the past. It's great for you, but what's in it for the customer? Oshi changes this. With Oshi, you can set up promotions to incentivize customers to pay in Bitcoin. There are zero processing fees, and you only pay the 2.5% platform fee when customers actually make purchases. To see if Oshi's right for you, go to oshi.team/bizbit. Once again, that's oshi.team/bizbit. All those links will be down in the show notes. And now, on to today's interview. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
So I like to start off every single interview with a few questions that help us to get to know you a little bit better up front. You ready for these?
Yeah.
When and how did you first learn about Bitcoin?
First, you discover gold, right? In 2009, I don't know if you remember, you turned on the television everywhere you looked. It was trade in all your dollars, trade in everything, buy gold. So that period was like discovering silver and all of those people, right? The Mike Baloney's, the Kitcos, and silver is supposed to be $500 an ounce. And you go through that rabbit hole of hard money. And ultimately, you stumble on some message board at some point in time where someone's talking about Bitcoin. And what do? The first thing that everyone does when they hear about Bitcoin the first time is you immediately dismiss it. And you say, this is horrible. This is stupid, right? Regardless of whether it's, pennies or however much it is, you just think this is not going to work, right? And then you wait, and there's an amount of time that lapses for everyone. And the shorter you can keep that time at any point in time, the better, right? So then all of a sudden you come back around and Bitcoin is $3, right? Years later. And I thought, oh, it's too much, $3, like that's crazy. I mean, I remember this garbage a while ago, and you take another look and you eventually get to realizing, hey, this isn't a scam. And then you go deep, like we've all done, and then you start playing with it and you start accumulating it.
Next question is this: what's an insight or fact about Bitcoin that you wish everyone understood?
That it's the single biggest middle finger you can give to everything in the world that you do not like, whether that is the government, whether that is taxation, whether that is not having permissionless money, the self-sovereignty aspect of your own finances, anti-Federal Reserve and inflation. It is the ultimate middle finger of voting with your dollars and taking full financial control over your life.
Question 3 is this: what's the Bitcoin resource that you most recommend to other people?
Well, I'm an old school guy, so, it was always the Andreas Antonopoulos videos. His books are super easy to read, and still, that's a great place to start. I mean, for a beginner learning about Bitcoin, right? Because it's so overwhelming. All of a sudden you jump in and it's Lightning Network and it's layer 2. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're researching some altcoin or the metaverse and you want to buy some real estate. And you're like, no, what happened? Just let's stay on sound money first. I would say that the Mastering Bitcoin book is a classic by Antonopoulos. I would say that, the Swan Signal chat, the YouTube channel is great. And boy, I don't know where do you send people right now to get going? That's a good question. I think that you have to take it in stages where, electricity, I have no idea how it works, or it's generated, or it passes through the wires, or how does it get to the plug, right? But what I know is if I plug my phone in, it's gonna charge, right? And that's really all I care to know about electricity. I don't care to know how it gets in the meter and the bill and it comes in. I don't care, right? So that's kind of the same for Bitcoin. People think they need to have this great understanding about every little thing that happens with Bitcoin. You really don't. You just need to know that it works. It's going to preserve your purchasing power. And then you just have to be smart with what you're doing with it, right? Because when I send you a Zelle payment or a PayPal or a Venmo, nobody stops to say, wait a minute, what's really happening here? Do I have to have this complex understanding of how a PayPal payment works? No, you just click the button and you go. The mistake people make is they come into Bitcoin and they think that they all of a sudden now have to have this high mathematical understanding of elliptic curve conversions and all these type of things. And that's really not what it's about. It's be smart with it, secure it, get as much as you can, and just know that that's probably the best thing that you could do.
So it sounds like part of your answer is essentially helping people to understand that it's something that won't be inflated away. Like that's the key concept for people to get. And then on top of that, just knowing how and that it works. Is that about right, or did I oversimplify it?
Right. And it's bite-sized chunks, right? All of these questions. You're not the first person. I guarantee you anyone's getting into Bitcoin. Well, what happens if there's no electricity? And what happens if the internet goes out? And how do I know it can't be hacked? And, all of these things, you can take in bite size pieces, right? And you can slowly learn, but don't think that you immediately have to jump to the console and importing keys and all of that. I mean, that comes in time if you want to piddle with it, but you certainly don't have to. Just know that it's probably the best thing you can do.
Sure, sure. Fourth question is, beyond Bitcoin, what's a resource or idea that's been valuable to you or your business recently?
Community, whether that's a Telegram channel or effective marketing or putting on an event or getting people together. I think that having a strong community, maybe it's a Slack channel, I don't know, whatever people do, but that's probably like severely underrated. It's probably one of the best things you can do is that. And we're trying. We're not experts at it. You know, we had an event in Miami and we have a Telegram channel, and we're trying to effectively communicate and build a community. But that's probably the best thing.
And our final question is what we call our arbitrary but insightful question, and it's this. As a general life principle, is it better to ask why or why not?
Why not?
What's your reasoning there?
I just think it's more positive. I think when you're looking at saying yes or saying no to something, I think why not is probably more positive than, you know, limiting it. I mean, I'm a doubting Thomas by nature, so I'm always asking why, and it's always the show me state kind of stuff. But I think asking why not to get over a limiting belief or get over something that you can't do is probably more powerful than, you know, than questioning everything with a why.
Well, Mike, today we're going to be talking about Lightning Ventures and a number of different things connected to investing in the Bitcoin space. First of all, could you share with us just a little bit about Lightning Ventures?
Sure. So Lightning Ventures is a boutique venture firm that was started with myself and two other friends. And we focus only on investing in Bitcoin companies. That can be payments, that can be mining, that can be hardware wallets, that can be ways to untap equity in your home, right? And take it out and buy Bitcoin with it, or converting Roth IRAs, or really cool companies that are in the space, everything. There's so much going on with Bitcoin, with an emphasis on Lightning Network technology and Lightning companies, but overall just focused on Bitcoin companies. We have a small fund that we raised last year that is closed, and we have a syndicate, which is basically a way that you can invest in awesome Bitcoin companies on a deal by deal basis and see what we're up to.
And you being who could be a part of a syndicate like this?
Well, the syndicates are unfortunately limited to accredited investors, which is loosening up, right? They're loosening the restrictions on it. They're getting more favorable with crowdfunding regulations. I think that this will all mesh and merge eventually. It's getting there. But yes, it's reserved for accredited investors. And that's an interesting situation because the SEC has this very interesting language on that process, and it is a self-accreditation process. So if you wanted to invest in be an accredited investor, the hurdle is really the individual clicking the right button. That's basically how the SEC has set that up. But yes, so anyone can apply. You know, we only run Bitcoin deals, Bitcoin companies. We have one live right now. We have more that are coming, but it's always active. And I purposely always set the minimum at $1,000. So that's very encouraging for somebody who's learning how to do early stage investing. You know, a lot of times it's $25,000 minimum or these crazy minimums. I hate that. That's not how I got started, and I would never want someone to do that. You know, invest a small amount into high quality deals. Read every update from the founder. Read everything that you can and learn. And you're going to have outcomes. You're going to have a scoreboard, and each one of those things is going to tell its own story, right? So, you can get into our syndicate. You'll receive deals. You can invest for as low as $1,000. And then when those founders come back with, we need help, here's what's working, here's what isn't. We're looking for an iOS app developer. Maybe that's you. Maybe you invested in that deal. You were one of the people who received the update, and maybe you can now be impactful because it's still early for these companies, So we try to assemble this army of awesome people, right? Whether it's lawyers or developers or UI, UX people, graphic designers, influencers with Bitcoin YouTube channels that might be able to help roll out affiliate programs. You kind of develop this army of special people, and you invest in these charismatic founders and brilliant teams and all of these things. And then when they're there for you, you step up to the plate and see if you can't get everyone to rally around what they need.
And I really love that idea. Another recent interview, I was talking with someone, Andy Schoonover of Crowd Health. I don't know if you're familiar with him and his business, but he was talking about essentially creating a health funding with Bitcoiners. And so there's just like this community of who these other people are, they're Bitcoiners. An idea of probably some of the values they hold, even though it's not a perfectly matching group of people. There's heterogeneity in this group, but still, you have this group of people, you know that you hold some similar values, and there's something powerful to that. So I love that you're doing that with Lightning Ventures. And maybe one thing, connecting back to what you said a second ago, what are some things you're doing to build and grow that community? So maybe just Lightning Ventures, the syndicate, whatever else, growing some of that community and letting people know about some of the opportunities for investing in the Bitcoin space.
Well, this is a tricky one, right? Because you can get very creative about it. So I personally have invested in over 2,000 deals, and many of those, of course, are outside of Bitcoin, right? So I've been in other people's syndicates and investing groups for a while, and you can see how they run their shop and things that they do. And we definitely try to do things differently, but you're kind of limited with the laws of what you can do. So, for example, you can't advertise a syndicate deal, right? We have a syndicate deal for an awesome Bitcoin company right now, a dollar cost averaging company that everyone loves. They're great. But I can't just put that on Twitter. I can't just put that out there. It doesn't work that way, right? That is illegal. That sort of solicitation, right? So as far as building a community around that, you just have to be careful. And this is what we're trying to figure out, right? Is how to get people involved and the engagement. And I don't really have an answer to your question because we're just trying ourselves, right?
Yeah. So when it comes to not being able to advertise, essentially, does that become a matter of who you know the right people, so you get some deal? I guess it seems like the laws are creating this buddy effect where you learn about deals because you know the right people.
Yeah. The solicitation laws, I don't really know what the thinking was behind that or why that happens, but it's actually the same way with a fund. You can set up a fund so that you can advertise, and you have much more strict reporting. It's a huge pain, right? But then you can have a booth at a trade show with a tablecloth and say, hey, we have this Bitcoin fund, right? But if you do it the way that we've done it, you can't do that. Okay, so there's all these kind of really stupid laws that really don't make a lot of sense. And do you want to advertise a deal? No. Do you want it to go to everyone? No, because there's a lot of confidential material that is in the syndicate, and we have a zero tolerance policy on people who share that information, right? If there's a leak that results, thank God there hasn't been one, not with our group, but that person is removed from the syndicate permanently, and then they're actually permanently banned from Angel List. So it's a very serious it's a very serious offense, and nobody really messes around with it. So even if it wasn't illegal, would I want to go on Twitter and say the XYZ company is raising at this valuation and da-da-da? No, that would be terrible. And if I was the founder of that company or considering bringing us in their fold, I would never, ever want that to happen. So it's definitely a balance.
One of the things I want to ask you about is what to look for when it comes to investing in Bitcoin companies, maybe for people who are higher net worth, working with an organization like yours, maybe in the future, or even some present day options, investing in public Bitcoin companies. So I'd like to hear your thoughts there. But first, I think one of the things we briefly touched on before we started recording is how to balance between holding Bitcoin, the asset, versus investing in Bitcoin companies. Seems like you probably have opinions on the value of both. Would love to hear how you weigh those two for yourself.
Right. So this is a really fun topic to think about and to discuss, especially if you do other investing that's not just stack sats, right? You might be a multifamily real estate guy, you might be a stock trader, you might be an income guy. Everyone's at different stages in their life. They're at different ages. They have different goals. Okay. So the first thing everyone in the world should do is buy Bitcoin. Hands down. That is number one, and that hopefully doesn't ever stop, right? You should earn it cash back through all these awesome, debit cards, credit cards. If you are using a credit card, make sure you're getting your rewards in Bitcoin, right? You use the shopping things like Lolly or, Sats back and put them in the browser. So make sure everything you do gets you Bitcoin, right? And as well as your weekly buys or daily buys, or if you have a windfall, you never stop buying Bitcoin. But I am in the camp of people who believe that early stage investing in general is probably the best way to accumulate wealth, life-changing wealth, And I believe that investing in Bitcoin companies is that on steroids. Okay. So let's say that it was 2013 and you invested in Coinbase, right? You were in ltng.ventures if it existed in 2013. Coinbase was not a altcoin garbage hellhole at that point in time. They just probably sold Bitcoin. And they're doing around, and you decided to invest $1,000 at that point in time. 8 years later, when they went public, that would be worth roughly $4 million. Okay. So if you can get a 4,000x return, granted, you have to wait 8 or 9 years for those real big ones to happen. That's never going to happen with Bitcoin now. Okay. Bitcoin's going to do great. Does it go from here? Does it 10x to 400,000? And then sit around for a little while? That would be incredible, right? We would all celebrate the price rise of Bitcoin. But is it going to 1,000x from here? And with those early stage investment opportunities, you have the chance to actually get those. I'm not talking about a meme stock. I'm not talking about some Wall Street bets kind of thing. I'm not talking about a garbage low cap altcoin in a chat group. Okay. These are real companies, right? Coinbase was a real company in 2013. They still are right now. And it's that type of story. That's how people really make life-changing money. So once you have a bunch of Bitcoin, or depending on your situation, or maybe you have an IRA, maybe you have a 401k with a bunch of money sitting there, and you know what, you're so done with the stock market. And then you go to a company maybe like Swan or Unchained or Alto IRA, and you say, you know what, I got 200k in this IRA 401k that I'm not going to touch. I want to start investing in early stage companies and linking that with my AngelList account, or linking that with my however you're buying Bitcoin, right? And you can actually take control. You can tap that large market, right? Everyone's racing to this right now. We're seeing a bunch of companies getting into it. The news today, Fidelity, right? So that's going to be a mad rush of people that are going to unlock capital. And you can start investing that money, right? You can start investing that money. People always say, where am I going to get money to buy Bitcoin? You probably already have it. You probably already have money to buy Bitcoin. You haven't figured it out yet onto how to untap it. I'm sorry, that was a lot. I just kept rambling there, but
no, that's great information.
Let me close on one thing real quick. Okay.
Sure.
So all the investments that we make in Bitcoin companies are decoupled from price action. They are decoupled from the intermediate price swings. Okay. Mining is a little bit different. Mining is more so tied to the price action of Bitcoin, the hardware. There's a lot that goes into that. But price goes up, price goes down. People are going to spin that fold wheel. People are going to spin that fold wheel no matter what, whether the price of Bitcoin is 400,000 or 40,000. You know what I mean? People are still going to shop on Lolly. People are still going to buy gift cards. People are still going to participate, right? So that's one of the things that we focus on is no matter what happens with the price, we're investing in companies that are going to appreciate no matter what. And then when the price pops, it's a double whammy.
Now, a couple of things here that come to mind. First of all, for someone who doesn't have any Bitcoin right now, or maybe they have a very small amount because they've just gotten into it, would you recommend that people build that up to a certain level or percentage before looking at Bitcoin companies or other investments? How are some of the what are some of the mental models or the principles you use to figure out how fast do I stack sats versus going ahead and continuing with investment opportunities?
Man, I can't even imagine being alive right now in 2022 and not having any Bitcoin. I mean, I just feel so sorry for those people that are just disbelievers or they just don't care. Maybe their life is, they're different, in a different place to not have any Bitcoin right now. But gosh, and that's probably like most people, right? Most people still don't have Bitcoin. It's just when you've been in Bitcoin for a while, you can't even imagine not having any Bitcoin. So what do you do, right? Well, that depends on the individual. Back in the, my personal goal back before the price was where it was today, if somebody was on the fence about getting into Bitcoin, I would say to try to own 2.1 Bitcoin. Maybe that's priced out at this point. Maybe for the average person, 100K is out of reach, right? And you can stack it. And we may have a crazy time. The price is down today. The price is going to always move. There's going to be big shakeouts, right? So you always will have the chance to continually stack. That 2.1 number was great for me, right? If you're a wealthy individual, you might want to try to have 21 Bitcoin. I don't know. Or if you're not, maybe that 0.21 is a good place to start. But I think that the most important thing is if somebody has no Bitcoin, they likely have no Bitcoin knowledge. Okay. So what are they going to do when they buy Bitcoin, right? Because it's not just how much do you have, it's how are you buying it? Are they just going to race to Coinbase? Are they going on Robinhood and they're not even buying real Bitcoin? That was happening for years. Somebody's like, oh, I finally got into Bitcoin. I bought it on Robinhood. And then you can't withdraw it. You can't deposit it. You have a derivatives contract. You don't even have real Bitcoin. Oh, I bought it on PayPal. You don't have real Bitcoin either. SoFi, these traditional finance apps, you're not even buying real Bitcoin. So I think the first thing is make sure you're buying real Bitcoin. And then buy it cheaply. And then secure it out of the exchange, right? Get it in your own possession, right? Get a hardware wallet at the house. And that takes time. If you have $100 worth of Bitcoin, you need to put about $100 of thought into securing that Bitcoin. And if you have $100,000 of Bitcoin, likewise, you got to put about 100 grand into actually securing it. We've all lost Bitcoin. I think the days of the scams of exchanges and exit scams, I lived through all of them. It was very exciting, where the website just goes down and the guy is never found again. Plenty of those type of situations. But I think those days are pretty much over, for the exit scam, rug pull kind of stuff. But you just got to start somewhere, buy a little bit, and then take manageable bites on learning.
And real quick point of clarification: if you have 100 grand, it takes 100 grand of thought, not an additional 100 grand to protect it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Nobody should ever charge you for securing your Bitcoin.
I just wanted to make sure, because I may have missed that part, but I wanted to make sure that no one listening thought that it required that much security. That's more if you have $100,000 worth of gold, you need $100,000 worth of security. My next question is connected to how do you begin thinking through what to look for when it comes to good Bitcoin companies to invest in. And if you have much of a knowledge, I know you're doing mostly private deals, but if you have knowledge on public companies, just some thoughts there as well. How do you begin to look at Bitcoin companies to figure out what the opportunity is, considering we're so early on when it comes to Bitcoin companies that you can invest in?
Everyone has different rules as far as what they invest in. Some people don't invest in pre-revenue companies, right? That's just it. It doesn't matter what the company is. They don't invest in pre-revenue companies, right? Some people don't invest in hardware companies. It doesn't matter what the company it does. We don't invest in hardware companies, right? So everyone has these type of rules. Our only rule with Lightning Ventures right now that we stand by is that it must be a Bitcoin company. So if it's a altcoin casino in Dubai somewhere, it's probably not a bad deal. And I may invest personally. I might refer it to someone else. It might be a great investment for anyone watching this, right? But that's our rule, is it has to be a Bitcoin company. So what are Bitcoin only companies? Cash App and Square, or Block, they're called now, they are a Bitcoin company. They are not out there fussing around with Litecoin and Monero and everything else, right? They get it. That's why it is a Bitcoin only company. Okay. Something like Swan Bitcoin, super beloved in the space, one of the best. They are a Bitcoin only company, right? People like Michael Saylor, they are Bitcoin only. That's our prerequisite, right? That is where we're staying with that. And that's not to say that there isn't NFTs that are on Bitcoin that are cool little art companies and awesome things that we will invest in too. But they are Bitcoin companies. What else? Every once in a while you come across a company that is actually profitable. Imagine that. It does happen every once in a while. You'll see a company that says, we've never raised money and we're actually profitable and we're getting ready to raise a round. And that's kind of like a lock and load, prioritize this. And then you have companies that have maybe an idea at best, okay, with nothing real that's built. And they want to raise $1 million and they want to hire a CFO and they want to do all of these type of things that really are a distraction and a total waste from doing what they should be doing, which is just build something, right? So you just like you would see somebody who's maybe frugal and spends their money in a certain way or not. You can look at a founder and say, oh my gosh, Matt Hill from Start9, one of them, like the best example. They spent like $80,000 and they built their product. That included legal. That included their team. That was salaries. That was everything that they did to get from like 0 to 1 cost like 80 grand. And then you have companies that have just burned tons of cash to get basically to the same spot, right? So you have kind of all these. Let me say this. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but okay. So check this out. When you go to cross the street, okay, how do you know it's safe to cross the street? It's not just wait for the walk sign, right? Because there could be a freaking lunatic in the middle of the street. Like I lived in New York City, you know what I mean? The sun could be in your eye. There could be a car turning right. There's a million different things that you have to look at. There's not one answer for how do I know when to cross the street. So when you're evaluating an investment, especially an early stage company, there's all these things. Who else is investing, right? That's called signaling. Okay, if anyone doesn't know. Okay, who else is investing and why? All right, let's say that your company is raising 10 million bucks. Okay, and SoftBank or Union Square Ventures or one of these big companies is taking like 7 million of the 10. Okay, so you got $3 million left, and then maybe you got Will Smith and Ashton Kutcher and Jay-Z's venture fund, right? They're taking another 2.5 million, and then you got a little 500K left. out of that 10 million. Okay. If SoftBank or one of these big companies is putting in 7 million bucks, could you invest 5 grand? That's the question, because the amount of work and due diligence that they had to do to make that decision, we're talking about consensus. Okay. We're talking about 9 people in a room that all have to agree that they are making that investment. Okay. It takes months. Okay. It takes months and a data room and every single thing that they want. Okay. To make that decision. So when you're in a syndicate like ours and you're learning how to invest, you're not going to get a call with the founder. You're not going, like, what are you going to be able to tell from like a LinkedIn profile at that point? What kind of due diligence can I do following on behind that type of a round? There's nothing I'm going to discover that they haven't done, right? So you do as much at a glance, okay, or a deep dive at 2 a.m. in your boxers, maybe, when you really get into reading it. You do as much as you can, and then you invest a small amount, and then you just learn. Right? So that's signaling. So you're looking for signaling. Nobody's in the deal. Nobody's invested. Now you got to think. That's scary, right? To be the actual first money in. Okay. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine Airbnb? Somebody comes to you with an opportunity for Airbnb and they have no investors, and they're telling you that, you're going to let some stranger take your apartment, or better yet, you're going to sleep in some stranger's apartment. It had to sound like the most ridiculous idea in the world, right? Yeah. And then once they get into YC, and once all the big firms and the top seed firms started investing and piling in, well, now it's a little bit of a different story. Look at the traction, month over month growth. If you're growing 400% quarter over quarter, that's what you want to see. That's what you're looking for. So you take all of these things into consideration, and then you make your decision. I tell you what I don't like to see is if a company raises at this valuation and then 6 months later they raise again at the same or a slightly higher valuation with no meaningful progress. Nothing has changed. They do not have any sort of growth. There's no wind in the sails, and they're raising again. That's not a good sign.
So if people have liked what they've heard today, they like the idea of being an early investor in a Bitcoin company, where should they go? And maybe also to that point, for people who are listening to this thinking, hey, I have an idea, I would love to see if there's funding out there for me. Those two groups of people, where can they go to find out more about potentially working with Lightning Ventures?
Well, our website is ltng.ventures, right? And you can definitely contact us if you're a founder or operator or thinking of raising money or want to learn more on how to get your project funded. That's ltng.ventures. If you are an angel investor or want to learn about angel investing or get started, or a Bitcoiner and want to learn how you can invest in awesome Bitcoin companies, right? Then same thing on the website. You can click the Syndicate link there. You do have to sign up for AngelList. You do have to accredit yourself. That can take 1 to 2 days. And then just click on our Lightning Ventures link. And it's a very quick little application process, right? Okay. You don't want to let everyone in, okay? But at the same time, if you're passionate about Bitcoin, and on our end we do a little bit of recon on you, and you seem like an awesome guy, and you put a nice note in there, and you're willing to help these companies, then you get in the fold, and then you'll start getting deals. You'll just get an email in your box that says Lightning Ventures invited you to invest in whatever the company is. And then you can read our proprietary deal memo, what we think of it, why we're investing, how much we're investing personally. You can ask questions. We often do a founder Q&A video, right? Which sometimes we put up on our YouTube channel, which we've not put that much work into. But that's it. Yeah. ltng.ventures. And I love getting people excited about investing. There's, pro rata rights and discount. And what's the difference between a safe note and convertible debt? And it's a priced round and all of these type of things, right? It can be very confusing. It can be overwhelming. And I want to simplify that for people. And I want to answer any of your questions as far as how to demystify a lot of this stuff. I think this stuff is for everyone. And I think it's the best way to make life-changing money.
So real quick summary, if you're a Bitcoiner and if you're awesome, are there any types of features or personality types, anything else like that would make sure that your Lightning Ventures collaboration is a winning experience?
Okay, so how about this, right? We have attorneys, okay? So if we have attorneys in our fold that are Bitcoiners, but also attorneys by trade, and they invest in a deal, and a founder says, hey, we're getting screwed by this attorney. He's trying to charge us $1,000 an hour. It's a boilerplate document. Can anyone help us with this? Right. And if we go to the couple of attorneys that maybe invested in that deal and say, hey, the founder of this is wondering if you can reach out. Can you either refer someone or help them with this one-off? A lot of times that the investor wants the intro. He invested in the company. He's a fan. Okay. And it happens to be exactly what he knows how to do and does best. So maybe he helps them out with that one thing. Maybe he refers them to a situation moving forward, right? So you can be an accomplished person in anything. You can be an e-commerce whiz. You can be a SEO guy. You can be an app developer. You can be a lawyer. You can be a podcaster. You can be anything, right? Just be something special.
There you go. Fair enough. All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure.
All right. I hope I didn't bore you, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, friends, it's a wrap. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Business Bitcoinization Show. If you want to reach out to either me or Mike, you can find our links down in the show notes. And if you know of someone who would be interested in investing in Bitcoin companies, share this episode with them. As always, keep building, keep growing, and until next time, keep living and leading well.